Hey everyone, I'm back. Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of voice, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you are playing characters Mannix, Celeste, Gillian, George, or Theron, this is not meant for you, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you would like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shoutouts to my platinum patrons, Andrew, Richard, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Nick, and Rodney. And gold patrons, RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy Numa, Marcos de Vicente, Gilberto, Sean, A.K.A. Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, and Arash. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. I'm so excited to be back after a 2-week hiatus from D&D and 1-week hiatus from Crafting Annihilation. Again, I realize if you just watch these in a row after the fact, you have no idea there's a time gap. But there is, and I am totally off my game. I'd like to say that I worked a lot on my D&D prep and planning over the Thanksgiving holiday, but I didn't. I just spent a lot of time with the family, played a lot of games, and frankly didn't even think about D&D. So it was nice to get a break from it all, but I was also missing it terribly. It's also nice to get back into it and get those creative juices flowing and get excited about doing D&D and streaming D&D, frankly. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it. This is going to be a slightly different Crafting Annihilation because I already did the recap, the kind of post-mortem discussion 2 weeks ago. I'm really going to have to come up with my timeline here. Because I had a Crafting Annihilation 2 weeks ago, but I didn't have D&D that week. And then last week, I had neither D&D nor Crafting Annihilation. So I'm getting back up on that horse, riding that bike again, and trying to remember what the hell is going on in our campaign. And the same is going to have to befall my players as well. It's going to be it's bear with us for the beginning of tomorrow night's session. We're going to be all a little bit rusty in terms of what the hell's going on. In fact, I probably need to update our quest things. I haven't been doing those very well, which was useful in the first half of the game when we had a lot of different quests going on. Now we've consolidated that quite a bit to where we're pretty much on the main quest, but I could still update for the main quest as well, which is this one, Find and Destroy the Soulmonger, which I've gotten some update. Yeah, my last update for the main quest was session 29. That was a while ago. Revealed the location of Omu. So I need to actually have an update that we made it to Omu. And because we actually got a big story update last time in the form of Orvex, who is the Red Wizard scholar, historian, whatever. Let's go to the Omu map. And that was a pretty effective info dump, I feel like, made more fun because Celeste knew him personally. So that's always really cool when you can enter an NPC that has those connections with your players. And in this case, Celeste has a lot of very dramatic connections with the Red Wizards of Thay. And that was a really fun session. In fact, last session had one of my personal favorite moments, not only of this campaign, but possibly of our entire D&D streaming, I almost said career, but just experience, I guess, for the last, how long have we been doing this? 4 or 5 years? When it was just 10 minutes of us goofing off and just having fun, and it was a whole bunch of crazy shit that happened that led to that moment. I actually made a edited video where I cropped out that section and just highlighted it because it was such an awesome moment. But the consequence of that was we didn't actually get very far. So we're like 2 sessions into Omu, and we have not even done any of the shrines yet. We just barely made it in. We did the walled compound. Essentially, that's all we did, is we did the walled compound scenario, which I had planned for and expected the players to do. I didn't expect it to take the entire session, but I was really pleased with it. I liked the way the players came up with a plan. I liked that we divided the party. I liked that I could attack with the Vegapygmies. Back-to-back sessions, by the way, of me really having to ad-lib things a lot more than usual, which, you know, as a DM, that's something you grow more comfortable with as you do it more. But it's always tricky when using Roll20 because you want to have those maps available. You want to be able to throw, monsters and things on the map and have all that nicely set up. Whereas if your players decide to do something you're not prepared for, that can be cool story-wise, but it can be very stressful and tough to catch up with as a DM Roll20-wise, just in terms of putting that stuff physically together. You don't have to do that, and I feel like your players would probably be okay if you just put them on a blank map and just said, look, I don't have anything prepped here. But in that case, I was able to actually throw together a cliffside map based on the Rift map I already had while the players were already planning this out. So I was able to slap something together and then immediately, and I wasn't planning on using these Vegapygmies. I don't know when I was going to use them, but I just thought that was a really fun situation to make that more interesting and let those players have that kind of added complication. I thought it all went very well and was really fun, with the consequence that it did take up the entire session, essentially. Hello, Jerome. Glad you could make it. So I've had a lot of sessions of talking about the shrines, and we still haven't even done the shrines yet. So we need to dive into that. We need to talk about... I really need to get a handle on the overall story stuff that's happening in Omu. In other words, the Red Wizards, when are they going to meet the players? What's going to happen there? The Yuan Ti and Zendala. Those are the three big things I need to kind of determine in terms of scripted events that occur while the players are also doing their thing in Omu. I'm not interested in throwing a bunch of random encounters in Omu because I don't want to... there's enough interesting things going on that I don't want to slow that down. Now, I will say, instead of doing random encounters in Omu, I should actually crack the book open. This book, by the way, has not left my actual desk in, 2 years, but it has been closed for the entirety of my break, so I did take a bit of a break from it. So there are random encounters for Omu, similar to the jungle, but and similar to the jungle, I'm not terribly interested in just throwing a bunch of random encounters for the sake of random encounters. But I do want to have the ability to search buildings. And I even had, this is something I didn't talk about last time on Crafting Annihilation, I don't think. I even created a little graphic, which is kind of dumb looking, but I don't know if you can see it very well. This is on the GM's layer right now. So if I move it to the token layer, it looks like this. And this is literally like, again, I come from a video game background, so that's kind of how I'm picturing players treating this kind of an area. Is you can roll to search, and then once you've searched an area, I will literally put this on the map as like you searched this area. And that way, instead of rolling for random encounters, the players can proactively choose to try to find something which could lead to an encounter or could lead to treasure or supplies. But that gives the players the option to actually do that. So I will need to explain that this is a system that is in, that they can do, because I don't think they would normally just say, let's search the area. They might, but it helps if I, through artists or somebody can say like, hey, do we want to search these surrounding buildings and find anything useful? And the players will realize, oh, that's something we can do. And especially once I actually put this on the map, like this, for example, they'll be like, oh, this is something we can do repeatedly. And that is my goal, is to let them be able to search buildings. And it'll depend on, what they end up finding is kind of if they decide they want to keep doing it or not. So I will go over my current plans, which is partially based on, in the book, there is so the rules there are a D100 table for searching the ruins. It's on page 95. I never pull things up on Roll20. I should pull them up here too. Let's see, where would it be? In Omu? Let's say it's in Omu. Entering the city, we got the history, city inhabitants. There's a lot going on in Omu. Navigation, here we go. So, characters can move through the city at a rate of 200 feet every 5 minutes. That's pretty quick. Even if they throw caution to the wind, the density of the undergrowth makes it tricky to move faster than 200 feet per minute, blah, blah, blah. When the party... Okay, it takes 30 minutes to clear a building. Well, obviously, I'm not going to itemize every single fucking building in here. That's nuts. So instead, I'm doing a... in fact, how big is this? That is about a 300 square feet area. Actually, it's not square; it's a circle, but whatever. Kind of a 300-foot zone for 30 minutes. You can just be searching, a generic area. And I'm going to be pretty much like, if you searched, here, that doesn't mean you get to search like, let's see, move my camera. You don't get to search like right here. It's just, this is kind of this area. You can kind of do it, north to south and then east to west, but it'll be a generic spot. As written, if you search the area, and there's no checks for this, you can just decide to do it, basically. You have a 40% chance of just nothing happening. Yay, that's fun. 0, 1 through 40, nothing happens. A 10% chance of running into assassin vines, which are pretty strong, depending on the context in which you find them. Do you see them like, 50 feet ahead of you? Then it's not going to be anything. Do you brush up against one? Then you might have a problem. And then it starts getting into 5% chances, it looks like. Collapsing floor, which is kind of a mini trap. Roll again, Mad Monkey Mist. We've actually encountered Monkey Mist earlier in this adventure, which has a chance of inflicting madness on the players. A Nest, which is another table that can lead to fight with just the minorest of smallest creatures, to where it's almost barely even including this kind of encounter, because the only thing that annoys me is if you include a combat encounter, it automatically slows things down. You put everybody in turn order, you go through the motion, and if people are just going to demolish this combat encounter, in 2 turns, then is it even worth going through the motion of putting everybody in combat? That's kind of what I'm worried about in terms of putting these nests together. I think I had... So what I did is I scaled it up slightly, as you do. There was plant discovery, which is actually good. There are several different plants with minor kind of potion-like effects you can give the players. Treasure, which are just art objects, and then they run into Veggie Pygmies here. So this is as written in the book, and this was the inspiration I took to do my own D100 table for searching in Omu. And again, this is something I want the players to be able to repeat, but it's totally optional, and this is kind of in lieu of doing straight up random encounters as they travel. So my plans is the following. First of all, there's no check to search. You just choose to search the area, and you will have to tell me if everybody's searching or only a couple people are searching and the rest are just kind of hanging out and maybe watching or something. I kind of want to create the paranoia that the UNT are always there and watching them. I don't plan on having necessarily any more UNT ambushes, but we'll see. I'm going to have to play it by ear and see. The UNT now know the strength of the heroes, so they would only strike if, similar to the Veggie Pygmies, if the heroes did something like they split up, or if they just fought a really tough battle, like maybe the King of Feathers, then I could have another UNT strike. But we kind of been there, done that, so I'm leery about that, but I do want to create that sense of paranoia that they are definitely being watched. So I'll need to know that information if everybody's searching or not. All right, so if they decide to search on a 1, and they whoever, just one person gets to roll a 1d100 to search, and this is just includes the entire area. On a 1 through 20, nothing happens. So I lowered it from a 40% chance to a 20% chance of you find nothing, because that's not fun. On a 21 to 30 is the collapsing floor, which is included in the book. So while searching a building, the floor crumbles underneath you. You get a dex saving throw, or you fall 20 feet for 2d6 bludgeoning damage. And then you get to roll again to see what you find after that. So that could be, that's going to be really funny, because there is a chance you could roll another collapsing floor. I thought about that. So like your character is just searching a tower or something. You just keep falling through these collapsing floors. Hopefully that won't end up happening. It's a D100, so we've got options. On a roll of 31 through 40, you end up in a building with the assassin vines. And assassin vines are pretty damn strong from what I remember. We encountered them before in Dungrunglung, I believe is... yeah, so these are CR3. I actually thought they were higher than that. They can't really move, but they've got a pretty powerful attack. And when they grapple you, you continue to take a lot of poison, 66 poison damage. So they're really only useful in this kind of situation when you basically find yourself in a room with assassin vines already there, and they're crawling at you. So it is a combat encounter with some vines, and the idea there is they can get some damage. The tricky thing is, like, could the players just decide to leave? Yes, basically. So my idea is I would have to let the assassin vines either have a surprise round or just put everybody in initiative order first, and then if the players decide on their initiative to escape, frankly, they probably could. Like, I don't have any way of really keeping them in that situation. They could just say, "Fudge it, we're out." So that would be a 31 through 40 would be the assassin vine. I think I still need to throw together. Let's see. Did I actually move house? This might be. I'm working on a map to actually use. Here we go. So this would be like the ruin of an interior Omu house. I'll put more blockers up to make it look like you were literally in a house. And then I can put the tokens on here and use this for the assassin vines. And that will be a more close combat encounter, because that's really the only time the assassin vines can be even the least bit troublesome. And they're these giant large plants. So that could be kind of cool, especially if they're like maybe on the ceiling near the entrance. So the players could choose everybody on their turn to take the disengage action and just leave. And then what's going to happen? Like, the assassin vines don't have any range attacks. That's it. So that is an option. The interesting thing here is because I don't reward XP, that is more of a viable option in this case than it would be if players were earning XP from kills. Instead, we use the milestone system. So I keep players at a very specific level for all these different areas. The caveat there, well, the interesting there is players don't feel like they have to kill everything. So if enemies can escape or retreat, or the players could retreat, and it's no skin off their nose. But in this case, it would be like if this is the one case where it works against me, in that if the players stuck around and fought this battle, they could at least earn XP from it. But they actually can't in this campaign because they get milestone XP. I could have it where there would be some treasure here, would be the only thing, like maybe a dead skeleton has a bag of coins, so I would probably reward them in that way to stick around and fight, would be probably how I would do it in this case. So that's 31 through 40. On a 41 through 50 is the Mad Monkey Mist. So you bust open a door and the blue mist spills out. You all have to make a DC 13 con saving throw to avoid getting some long-term madness, which should be pretty interesting because there are some nasty long-term madness effects in the game. On a 51 through 60, you stumble into a nest while exploring a ruined building. So this one will be similar to the Assassin Vine in that it is a close quarters combat situation. I changed it because as written, it just seems too easy, which was 1d6 giant wasps. Well, giant wasps are decent. CR half. But the thing about the giant wasps is they can inflict that disease. Where is that? Shivering sickness. Any character damaged by a giant wasp must succeed on a DC 11 con saving throw at the end of the encounter or become infected with shivering sickness. Which I don't think that happened. I think I did have them roll last time they fought giant wasps. Somebody got, like, Mannix got stung, but I think he made the saving throw. Takes 2d6 hours of symptoms to manifest to an affected creature. Symptoms include blurred vision, disorientation, and a sudden drop in body temperature. It causes uncontrollable shivering. The infected creature regains only half the normal number of hit points from spending hit dice and no hit points from a long rest. Disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. Whew, that's pretty nasty. That's like having exhaustion levels. At the end of a long rest, an infected creature repeats the saving throw, shaking off the disease on a successful save. So that's basically the problem here that the players don't realize. The wasps themselves aren't that strong. And I probably wouldn't actually roll a 1d6. I'd probably do like probably 5 or 6 wasps. And I would probably try to do it where, like, Artis isn't there. He's like, you guys want to explore those buildings or something. I'll keep a lookout for the UNT. Just try and keep Artis out of the fights as much as I can, because he is a story-based NPC. Well, I guess if he doesn't use the Ring of Winter, it's not that bad. He's just another dude. I probably would work with their, like, multi-attacks to lower their attacks. But I just feel like the players are high enough level where they just don't need all these extra NPCs in combat. But so the wasp could inflict that disease on the players, which could be a long-lasting effect. And I don't think anybody has cured disease or anything like that either. We don't have any clerics. I don't believe the druid has that kind of spell, unless they have like a lesser restoration. Let's take a look. He does have lesser restoration. Does that cure disease? And 1 disease. It sure does. Okay. Well, that could be a good use of it. I don't think he's had a chance to use lesser restoration. So there you go. So he could use lesser restoration to cure that disease, which frankly, hey, that's great. You spent a level 2 spell slot to get rid of that. So anyway, the wasps the nest could either be giant wasps or swarms of poisonous snakes, which I think are decently strong. Again, you just get those. You just hope for a few lucky strikes. Basically, none of these creatures are going to last very long, but you just hope for some lucky hits there. Because it's D&D's War of Attrition. Or Sue monsters, which I changed that from Sturges, because Sturges are just way too weak, even with that many Sturges. Sue monsters are something we haven't encountered yet. It's one of the few Chult creatures that I haven't actually used. I thought I used just about everybody, but when I introduced all the shrines, I realized my players have never seen an Eblis, which are weird, like, sentient storks, or the Sue monsters, which are like evil monkeys. Evil psychic monkeys. And they're just, like those giant wasps and poisonous snakes, they're not that strong individually, but, it's just something we haven't encountered yet. And the fact that they have this crazy, like, kind of powerful psychic damage move they can do makes them a little more of a surprise foe. So that could be just another nest that the players stumble on. So, and I'm leaning towards letting that be a roll. Maybe like the players roll it or I roll it, because it really could be giant wasps, Sue monsters, or poisonous snakes. Just depends what my mood is, I suppose, or if I want to roll it. All right, so that's 51 through 60. On a 61 through 70 is the plants, which I kind of didn't really change. There's a 1d6 table already in here for plant discovery, dancing monkey fruits, Riot roots, wild roots, Zabu. All of these things do various effects. They, like, hell, I don't know, where are they? Appendix C. Oh, I don't know what page that is. But like the well, I guess the Wookanut's not in here. They use the Wookanut all the time. One of them gives you temporary hit points. Dancing monkey fruit makes you dance a cosmic dance, which we've actually used hilariously in several opportunities. I think one of them might actually cure poison or disease. One of them is a bomb. I think that's the Zabu. You throw it like a fucking bomb, which is like a grenade, which is pretty cool. So it's a chance for them to get loot that's more finite and has different effects. Wild root cures poison. Cinda berries. Gains advantage on saving throws against disease and poison for the next 24 hours. And then Riot root gives you temporary hit points. And manga leaves, I think, just heal you. Yeah, you regain 1 hit point. Okay. So, whatever. Just some fun plants. I think it's a neat idea, have plants that have effects. On a 71 through 80, you find some Omuan art objects. Just kind of generic, 25 gold a piece, rings, goblets, pottery, whatever. On an 81 through 80, so all of those are 10% chances, by the way. Now I start getting to the 5%ers. On an 81 through 85 roll of the D100, you find a emergency medical supply in a secret stash. And here's the chance for players to gain healing kits, potions of healing, and maybe even a potion of vitality. Because a lot of times what players do when they're in town is just spend their money on healing potions, which is not a bad idea. And my players don't have that opportunity. They don't have a chance to buy supplies. So it's a chance for them to get some much needed supplies. Healing kits in our game, by the way, you can cure long-lasting injuries. For example, I believe Mannix, is Gillian, has a damaged eye. Like, technically, you could use a healing kit. I believe it's a DC 20 medicine check, and you expend a healing kit use to do it. But you could cure a long-lasting injury that way, which would really be the only way the players can do it, while in the middle of the frickin' jungle. On an 86 through 90, I wrote down that you find one of those mazes that you have to traverse with your finger, which was an encounter that you could have in the jungle. In this case, it is a DC 15 investigation check. And if you fail, it is it's a glyph of warding. It's an explosion. Anybody who's in the area, so anybody that was exploring, has to make a con saving throw or take 5d8 thunder damage. Either way, if you succeed or fail after that, you find a hidden room that is basically the results of the 91 through 100, which is an actual treasure cache. Like you find a selection of treasure, which I wrote down. Kind of a complicated system. I didn't have like a good table for treasures. So what I wrote down for my notes was, I need to get the Dungeon Master's Guide. Excuse me. I wrote down I was going to use magic item table B. Let's see, that's on page 144. Again, this is only if the players roll a 91 through 100, which I guess that's a 10% chance on the D100, or if they roll an 86 through 90, and then, well, I guess it's both of them, right? Because it's just the 86 through 90. The only trick is they have to solve make a skill check first. Let's see, 144. So magic item table B has a lot of like potions and scrolls and just kind of lower level loot that I feel like you can give out without breaking the game too much, with some exceptions though. And I wrote down specifically if the result is an 84 or higher, which is when you start getting into stuff like alchemy jug, goggles of night, helm of comprehending languages, immovable rod, things that shouldn't just be handed to the players for searching. I'm going to make them roll again, but they actually get 2 of whatever item they find. Now, hopefully they don't continue to fucking roll 84 plus, because I don't really want to make that a stacking multiplayer. But that's the idea. So they can either get a potion of greater healing, resistance, ammunition +1. There is some decent stuff they can get in there, like a Chaogtum's ointment. Elemental gem could be potentially a pain in the ass for me, because I don't think I've got the elementals in this Roll20 campaign built in yet, but a chance for them to get treasure. So those are my ideas for searching, and hopefully the only way I could see this of crashing and burning is if, like, the first time the players do it, they find nothing. The second time the players do it, they run into a combat encounter, and after that, they say, fuck it, we're not going to do this anymore. That would be a bummer, because I did come up with, pretty significant rules here for... And I tried to make it so most of them are at least not bad, because I want the players to be motivated to search. So I haven't done the math, but you have a 20% chance of finding nothing. You have, let's see, 10... 20, 30, 40% chance of it being basically bad, although 10% of that 40% is you have to just succeed on a dex saving throw, and then you can roll again. Which leads us with a 40% chance of basically something good. So, I think those are pretty decent odds for search, considering the search itself doesn't take any kind of skill check or anything. You just decide to search. So those are my plans with searching. I'll catch up on the chat here in a second. I killed my first PC this. I remember we had this discussion before with Assassin Vines. Yeah, deceptively strong for sure. That was a really tough fight for them in Dungrungalog, and that was a great situation because I caught them right in the middle of a bunch of that hedge maze. So it was, and that's when you want to use them, when they can't really move around very well. Hidden Shrine of... Oh, yeah. I have actually looked at that. I reviewed Tales from the Yawning Portal. I think I did, actually, for Roll20. I know I've read through it. It's interesting going back and looking at those old school dungeon crawls, just how, like, some of that shit is just so deadly and bullshit. But that was, part of the experience, too. I feel like you went through characters a lot quicker than you do nowadays. And maybe we're too soft on our characters these days, but I know I have my own proclivities about player death, but a lot of those dungeons seem kind of bullshit in their design. It feels they feel very graph papery too, like everything is very much squares and really long ass hallways and all this stuff, so they could fit on like one, sheet of graph paper. I don't necessarily have a problem with all that stuff. It has some cool ideas, but I just didn't feel the need to add a large dungeon when the climax of this game is a large mega death trap dungeon. Um, I was thinking originally back when I first started this campaign that maybe I would add it somewhere in the jungle because the jungle didn't have any big dungeons. But I didn't really feel the need at the time, and I feel like we added enough. I turned Orlunga into a dungeon, and even with skipping Nangalore, I still feel like we had a decent quota of dungeon crawls to jungle travel. And now we've got more of a I don't consider it Omu a dungeon, but all the shrines are kind of mini, one room dungeons, and then obviously the Yuan-Ti Fane of the Serpent is a dungeon, and the Tomb of the Nine Gods for sure. You're tired with an add a wall and layer and pop it. Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea too. Add that like below thing. I'm still determining. There's the kobolds are the ones that are hanging out in this bazaar up here, and the text mentions that they have like all these warrens built underneath, and that's like their home base, and their goal is to reset all the shrines. The shrines don't magically reset themselves. These kobolds come out and do all that. And I think they work for a Serac specifically, because a Serac's going to uplift like the chieftain or something, the chieftain. So I thought about actually turning that into a mini dungeon, like turning the little kobold warrens into a dungeon. I'm not sure because, kobolds for level 7 play. Although we did do kobolds with level 6 players. And I don't know, we already did the kobold thing with Wormheart Mine. So I'm of two minds of doing it. And obviously that's a lot of work for me to put together because there's no dungeon map like that into Annihilation. So I'd have to find one that I like and put one together. So and I've got a lot going on already. So it's something I've got in the back of my head if I want to do something with the kind of underground area, if I feel like that'd be a cool break. But I'm leaning towards maybe making that just more of an RP encounter if I do anything at all. I did put it on the map. So I did put the the marketplace up there. So maybe it'll be a question of, and players should end up near that area for the obelisk. So it may be a question of if they decide to search this area, then they can find the kobolds. But like I said, I haven't determined if I want to make that a full-on area or not. Renee, welcome to the channel. Thank you for the subscription. Page 196 in TOA has a D20 cash table. Yeah, I wasn't terribly impressed with those because a lot of them were kind of bullshit. But I will look at them again. Maybe this is counted at the Garden of Nangalore. Okay, yeah, Nangalore. Whenever I do my big post Tomb of Annihilation session, which is probably going to be a full. I don't know what it'll be. Some kind of nice post game event where I'll come on and just talk about our entire campaign. That will be one of the things that will be kind of a bummer is that we didn't do Nangalore. Although I feel like we did a lot, but yeah, that is a cool looking map, and it's a bit of a bummer that we. Oops, I'm in the DMG. That we didn't do it, and there's just so much, which is cool. I'd rather have a book that there's so much good stuff that you don't get to all of it, rather than you do all of it and you want more. All right, 196. Oh yeah, it's the appendix. As caches and treasure drops. So caches have things like supplies of food, which we don't give a shit about. We're not doing food. Casks of water. Climber's kit, I guess. I don't really keep track of their ropes. I try to, but we tend to not care. Lamps, tents. Yeah, this is good stuff if you're playing. I don't want to call it hardcore, but if you're keeping track of things that we aren't keeping track of, like if you're actually deducting like supplies and things, and I don't want to crap on anybody that does that because that is certainly a way you can play. It's like those Fallout video games where you can turn on survival mode or not. And I think that's a really interesting experience. That's just not how we do it in our campaign. So I don't think that one is useful for us. The treasure drop table, however, is better. And I have used this table before. I know I have. For loot purposes. Not all of them are solid. First of all, it's a 50% chance of finding nothing. So that's weird because it's a treasure drop table. I want it to be a table of treasure. So I mean, you could just use that as a D50, I guess, and roll 20. You can roll whatever dice you want. But this, I mean, it's similar. It's got the jar of Chaoctum's ointment, a wand of secrets, or horn of blasting. That might be a little much. It's mainly just a combination of art object loot and that magic item table B. Although scroll down a little bit, and it's also a little bit on the lower level side. This is potion of first level spell scrolls, potion of animal friendship vitality. That's actually closer to magic table item A, and I'm doing B because players are level 7 now, and I want to be able to, if you're going to do a good treasure drop, I want to include better loot that they would care more about rather than, a potion of climbing or something. Not that that's can't be good. So yeah, it's a good idea, but I think my system is going to work. This would be a good idea to look at if we roll the art object table specifically, because then I could say something like, you find an obsidian knife, or a small onyx orb with maze-like patterns. I can use that as flavor text for sure. A set of thieves' tools would be a bad idea, because I think we had rules for lockpicking where you could actually break your lockpick kit. A pouch full of gemstones, that could work. An empty corked vial made from an Aarakocra's engraved wing bone. That's very specific. A gold nugget the size of a dwarf's fist. Ooh, venom too. So I could do poison. Stoppered vial of serpent venom. That would be a good thing. Celeste would love to find that. All right, there's some good ideas on here. Probably use that as part of the art object table, which is the 71 through 80 on the D100. So I hope the players do this. I've got the graphic for it, so that'll be something that I'll have to tell them is a thing they can do. And then once I put that on the map and let them roll the D100, hopefully they'll have fun with it, and it'll be an interesting thing to want to do. And that'll be a way for us to integrate random encounters if they're a little unlucky, which again is only a 20% chance out of a D100, 20% of rolling a straight up encounter. Now, you could roll the collapsing floor one and then roll again and then end up with that one. So it's slightly more than 20%. I haven't done the math there. But still, I'm hoping it doesn't bog things down with combat. I made it specifically so the players would want to do it, and it doesn't slow us down, but it's more of a proactive thing for the players to want to do. So we'll put that on the GM's layer for now, and it'll basically just be, I could make it a little bit bigger, I guess, but I don't want it to take up the whole, this whole area would be one search is what I'm thinking. And this area here about would be a search, and then this would be a search. I don't want to literally do it again and again and again, but I think you could probably do it 8 times if you really meticulously went all the way through. What I could do is go ahead and put them on the map on the GM layer so that I know what areas there are. They've already explored. Yeah, they technically haven't explored in terms of my search rules, but yeah, I will put it on there. So let's put it on the GM layer for now. In fact, we'll put it kind of right there, and then I'm kind of going to copy and paste. In fact, it might help if I know what it looks like. I tried to group these together, but it doesn't seem to quite work that way. It gets a little off-center each time. That's annoying. There we go. You could search here. You could... Oh, I need to move these guys out of the way. I appreciate you putting that on here, Roll20, but we're not going to fight on this map. I need to move the numbers so I don't accidentally put that. There we go. You could search there. You could search probably here. I guess over here. Probably not search the flooded areas. I think those would be just instantly destroyed. Maybe around there. Maybe right here. Oops. Can I even select this 19 anymore? Nope. It's getting too crowded on the GM layer. Bit too crowded. There we go. Yeah, I would probably argue they actually can't search in the water. So how many times is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I think that's a pretty good amount. I would not allow them to search in the royal palace because at that point they are getting captured. So let's talk about the story. My plan, which forgive me who suggested this, but is a great idea, which is to have the Red Wizards contact the players without physically meeting them first. So there's no chance for a combat encounter initially. Instead, when the players reach a shrine that has already been completed, which I'm getting close to figuring out which ones I want the players have done and which ones be completed. I haven't quite finalized that. And unfortunately, some of it depends on what direction the player is going. I'm still assuming, and I know that's tricky to assume what players are going to do, that we do these 2 shrines first. I know we're going to do this one next because that's where we left off. Which one is that? Shigambi's? I think that's Shigambi's. And I assume we'll do Kubazan, and then I assume we're going to go north, hit up Ejin here, and then do the amphitheater because George knows he has to complete his personal quest at the amphitheater. So I'm assuming the players take a directly north route, which I'm leaning towards letting Wongo here, having been already completed by the Red Wizards, because it makes sense story-wise in our campaign because I had Zagmira leave the obelisk, having figured out what the Red Wizards need to do, which the players now know through Orvex about what the Red Wizards are doing and what they need to do to enter this underground tomb, which is to go to all these shrines. So it would make sense that the Red Wizards have already completed this shrine. So my idea here is the players enter, they set off some kind of alarm spell or some kind of tracking that, in fact, they don't even have to do that because Manix has a fucking eyeball given to him from Valindra's Shadow Mantle, which has not come up yet, which would be an awesome moment for me to come on and say, hey, we've been able to see your every goddamn movement because, and I even mentioned that because if I recall correctly, I would have to go all the way back to that session, but that's how we fixed Manix's eye. When we made it to the heart of Ubtao and Valindra basically helped the players, she gave him an eyeball out of like a pickle jar. And he even cast, I believe, some kind of a detect magic on it. And I told him it was low-jacked by Valindra. So there was like a tracking device. And he's like, okay, I'll have to keep that in mind. And that was 20 sessions ago or something. So I believe I've already built that into place. So I could even have that light up. In fact, I could have that projection shoot out of his eye. That'd be amazing. The holographic image, somebody told me, and I don't remember who, mentioned the projected image spell as something I could use to have the Red Wizards communicate. So I could literally have this like R2-D2 with a thing coming out, the Help Me Obi-Wan, have all of a sudden this projected image come out of Manix's eye, and it's Zagmira standing there saying, greetings, heroes. We've been watching you for some time now. Pretty much for the last, I don't know how many sessions that's been, but I mean, since the Heart of Ubtao, they've been following them and noting their progress and everything. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot. But story-wise, it would probably be more interesting to wait until they discover a shrine that has already been completed. And then that projection comes out and, they see the missing puzzle cube and they go, oh shit, I guess we have to find Zagmira. And then that eyeball projection comes out and says, and it's Zagmira. And she explains, we've got some of the cubes. We know you've got some of the cubes. We're going to work together. However, there's a problem. And she's going to explain the fact that, and they know about the UNT, obviously, because the UNT attacked their main camp, and they've been having to deal with the UNT this whole time. So what I'm leaning towards is having Zagmira, through this projected image, tell the players Raz Nisi knows that we were here doing this. Obviously, they attacked our camp, and he has gone out and secured one of the puzzle cubes. Like, we know one is gone, and it wasn't us, and obviously this was, when around the time you guys arrived, and you guys hadn't done it yet, and we've been spying on you the whole time. So we need a puzzle cube from Rosnisi. So I'm leaning towards Zagmira actually telling the players this information, which could cut down on their exploration of Omu. And I'm furthermore leaning towards having Zagmira suggest to the players that they voluntarily get captured by the UNT to infiltrate that dungeon. Because it's very tricky to capture players. Players don't want to get captured. They don't want to give up that agency. They don't want to throw down their arms. Like, that's a very tricky concept. And they don't know this is going to lead to an entire dungeon crawl that is built for players to be captured. Specifically, that's the best way to run this dungeon. So I'm leaning towards just having that come from an NPC suggest to the players a frontal assault is suicide, even if we combine our forces. The UNT are everywhere. They've got huge amount of numbers. We've been dealing with them, but the royal they control the royal palace. What about if you all just get captured and then you can deal with it from there? That's the way to get inside. Because she will mention that they won't capture her because they don't trust spellcasters. They didn't capture any of the red wizards before. They just murdered them all. And she will say, you'll need to hide the. They know that some of you are spellcasters probably already now at this point, but they would, you're at least not as strong as spellcasters, so maybe they would still capture or somehow have to bullshit the way that it's better for you guys to be captured rather than me. And obviously she's bullshitting about them working together. They want to combine the cubes, and then the red wizards would attack the players. And that's something the players would obviously pick up on instantly, is the fact that they would have to then deal with Zagmira. So they will learn several important things from that meeting. They will learn that the red wizards have several cubes. They will learn that Rosnisi has at least one cube. And they'll learn that trying to get into the royal palace at all will result in them being attacked by a huge force. And the best thing for them to do would be to allow themselves to be captured. Now, will the players go along with this plan? That's hard to say. I'm trying as the DM through NPCs to tell them this is a viable option. Whether or not the PCs actually want to do that will be another story. They could very much resist that. I'm hoping they accept it and they work and they want to do fun things with it. Maybe they make a check to hide certain weapons or gear, or having forewarned about this is the plan, they can at least prep for being captured. So I'm hoping they want to do it, but then they also put their own spin on it. Maybe they even want to split the party and have some of them get captured and some not, which I think would kind of be disastrous because, again, you can't really attack the front door. But maybe the captured people can, try to sprint. That would be the only bummer, is because this dungeon is built for everybody to be captured and kind of try to escape together. But if the players want to do it that way, they could certainly do it that way. So I don't know if they have access to invisibility yet. And it might be a case where they ask Zagmira, hey, can you cast some spells on us? We'll be okay with this plan, but you need to help us. And then maybe Zagmira could cast greater invisibility on somebody, so that some of the party is captured and others can follow in, and that be the ace in the hole of how they escape, is one person, is invisible or something. And that's how they get inside. So, hopefully the players will pick up on that and work with that. But that's what I'm leaning towards, rather than just springing a giant ambush on them and hoping to capture them through this long, drawn-out fight. I think this would be a more interesting situation, and I think it's going to go over better if I tell the players this is an option. Basically, this is what you should do. Zagmira knows that they take slaves. That's a big thing for the UNT, is to enslave other races. They consider themselves, they are snake supremacists, I guess. I don't know. But that's their whole goal, is to not necessarily kill people, but to enslave them, frankly. And I guess sometimes they turn people into snakes, too. So maybe that could be a thing. But I just think the Fane of the Night Serpent is way, way cooler and more interesting if it's done from that approach, rather than just a traditional knock down the door and fight all these UNT. I have not looked at the dungeon in a while. I'm still working on Omu. But I remember from reading it that it had a whole system and a whole set of detailed rules and role-playing stuff for if the players are captured, like where they go, what they're forced to do. Here are some other prisoners they can meet. And the fact that they can get meetings with Rosnisi, as well as collude with the High Priestess to go against Rosnisi. So there's multiple things they can do. Now, the one problem here is Artis and Dragonbait would not agree to be captured. Because again, I want to keep my NPCs out of dungeons. He does not allow the Ring of Winter to fall in the wrong hands. So he would go along with this plan, but he would be one of the ones that would be like outside of the royal palace and not, they could have some kind of plan with Artis if they want. But he would definitely not be down for, even though he wants to talk to Rosnisi, he's like, this is, you guys talk to Rosnisi on my behalf. Here's the quest, and I'll hang out here. What would really be good is if the timing works out where the players accept that, they tell Artis to do something. And maybe to be a case of like, hey, go do another shrine or something. We just don't have to do that one, and Artis can do it. And then when the players come out of the whole dungeon, then they find Zendala and Artis together, locked in that kind of, she's cast Dominate person and she's getting the ring, and the players have to deal with all of that. And because Zendala she's whatever, doing whatever. She's, again, Omu is dangerous. There's a lot of shit going on. It's big enough where Zendala can be somewhere hiding out, and maybe she's probably also trying to reconnaissance with Artis and trying to figure out when her best time is to strike, which would be if the players get themselves captured by the UNT and Artis is behind. So that would be the other good thing. All of this relies on the players getting voluntarily being captured by the UNT. However, that's a big ask. I know that is. I'll do everything I can to gently suggest that this is a thing players can do, but we'll have to see how well it goes over. I'm hoping it's working. Mentioning exploiting the coup within the UN. Ooh, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, Zegmira instigated the coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. Is that how you pronounce it? Coup d'etat. That would be. I like that idea too. I don't know why Zegmira would know about it, but actually, you know what? In the text, it mentions that she's got like a doppelganger or something. Like she's already infiltrated the UNT. That could be another thing. She's got a dude on the inside who could help them. Shit, yeah, these creative juices are flowing. I have to go to the Fane chapter. I really need to reread like the last half of this book. I've been so like shuttered on just where the players are currently. But I'm pretty sure. Where's that mentioned? Is that in the Fane chapter? Or is that in the Red Wizard chapter? Temple roster. It's not there. I think it's under prisoners. Or is it? Maybe it's not a prisoner. I swear that was a thing. Somebody back me up on that. There was a doppelganger that the Red Wizards used to investigate, or to infiltrate. It's at the Zegmira. Oh, the Kuta. Yeah, I think you're right on that. Yeah, it's just pronounced weirdly, and that's not pronounced how it's spelled. There's probably an accent somewhere. Where is the Red Wizards of Thay? It's not in this section. Seeing the entrance to the Nine Gods. Crap, it doesn't mention. Where does it mention that they put a doppelganger? Zegmira encourages human characters to infiltrate the UNT temple disguised as purebloods with non-human characters posing as their slaves. That's what the text actually says. Oh, here we go. Page 94. The characters could form an alliance with red wizards to uncover the puzzle cube taken by the Yuan-Ti. If an accord is reached, Zagmira reveals that she has a spy in the Yuan-Ti temple, a Yuan-Ti pureblood named Ishmakal. Zagmira doesn't reveal the spy is a doppelganger. Boom. So in the text, it says she encourages human characters to infiltrate the Yuan-Ti temple disguised as purebloods, with non-human characters posing as their slaves. Now, that the players would be more reticent to. They pull the whole Star Wars Wookiee and chains thing. In the harem. Okay, thank you. How did you find that so quick? That they would probably be more into if they actually pulled off the infiltrate the injustice pureblood. So they would need to have some of them, I guess, just dress up. I wonder if they have access to. Do they have access to things? You know what? I bet Zagmira can cast a spell. I could do that. Zagmira could cast. Okay, I'm liking this idea better. Instead of getting captured, which is a tricky thing to do, this way, some of them, if they infiltrate it with prisoners, those prisoners would then be separated and taken to the prison pit, and the others would go. Okay, I think that's actually a better idea. Which is, she suggests they infiltrate. They disguise themselves as purebloods, and then the more monstrous one, which would be Gillian and George, would be taken as prisoners, right? Because otherwise it's dwarf. I don't know. Are there dwarf pure? But when she's a drought, Jesus, is Mannix the only fucking human? He is. Who could be pureblood? Could Celeste pull off pureblood? Could Theron pull off pureblood? What is Yuan-Ti purebloods? Do they have to be? Can purebloods be? Let's see. Where's the freaking monster man? I need to know more about purebloods then. Are they any race? Base race? Base race! I think I need Volos to actually look up more Yuan-Ti, though. Let's see. Yuan-Ti pureblood. They closely resemble humans. Yet a pureblood can't pass for human under close scrutiny because there's always some hint of its true nature, such as scaly patches of skin, serpentine eyes, pointed teeth, or a forked tongue. The idea would be Zagmira could maybe cast like Alter Self. Let's see. I'm using her as an Archmage stat block, but obviously I could give her whatever freaking spells I want to. This is the third book I've had to open, which is a good sign, I think. All right, where are the damn humanoids? There we go. Archmage. They just have a bunch of combat spells. Weirdly enough, Archmage does not have visibility as written. The Archmage can cast Disguise, Self, and Invisibility at will. Never mind. Okay. But, I mean, Disguise Self is just yourself. Is there a Disguise Self you can do on other players that's not like a polymorph? Right. But it's called Alter Self. Is there one you can do on somebody else? Let's hold a physical inspection. You can seem 1 foot shorter or taller. So I don't think a dwarf using that would be able to actually pass as a pureblood, but Celeste could. Well, I mean, I guess if you're using Disguise Self, anybody could, but this is only on Self, so that's... Is there an Alter Self that you can cast on other people? Yeah, because change appearance would be you can make yourself appear as a member of another race. At that point, everybody could just use that to infiltrate, though. Well, we don't have to use magic then. Somebody's got a disguise kit, right? Fuck magic. Even though Zagmira is the one giving them the mission. Couldn't we just use somebody could pass around a disguise kit and they apply some, snake contact lenses or something? Change your physical appearance. I wouldn't even make them roll a check. I'd just be like, does anybody have a disguise kit? Because you could probably apply like some, henna tattoo scales on your arms or something. My point is, I would love it if the players do the plan of some of us are going to disguise ourselves as purebloods, and the others are going to be our captured enemies, which are going to be recognized from the party that the UNT already fought. And then that's how they will make it inside the royal palace. And some of them will be allowed inside. They'll probably have to roll a deception check or something. But otherwise, the players can choose. But Zagmira will mention the fact that this, some of you can disguise yourselves as purebloods. Those of you who look human-ish, which honestly, from this party, without the use of magic, it's probably just Mannix could do it the easiest. I don't see Gillian or George being able to do it at all, which is a bummer because Gillian is their charisma person. But I mean, she's a fish lady. You can't use a disguise kit to get rid of your fins. George is a turtle, so that's out. Kaless, it'd have to be a pretty convincing disguise. Maybe I could even use different DC deception things for different players. Or, Mannix could try doing like a Jedi mind trick of one of his mind spells that he has in terms of letting them pass, so that could be an opportunity. But I don't really see Gillian, George, or Theron without the use of magic being able to disguise themselves as UNT. So they would probably have to be the prisoners, and Mannix and Kaless maybe would be the infiltrated purebloods. Neither of which I don't think are any good at charisma. But Mannix does have some spells available. So that would probably be a better idea, and they would be more into that. Give them rings that have castings of that spell in them. Like a one-time, or just a potion would be better. Well, I say that, but then if it runs out, they're kind of fucked. And I could give them a limited amount so that they could, they don't get 5. They get like 3 or 2. And that way it forces them to make the choice of who is going to be an infiltrator and who's going to be a prisoner. That could work better. And then they don't have to, I guess they'd still have to make deception checks, but it wouldn't be as obvious about like who can apply makeup or not, just because this party is particularly monstrous. Yeah, I like that idea. And that's goodwill on Zagmira's part, because she's telling the party to do this, and then I'll provide something that lets you do that. She's got a very finite amount of so it would probably last an hour, right? If you did a potion, that would put the players on a really interesting clock. Like the second you short rest, basically, it's over. I like that idea. I like that a lot. I'm getting a little ahead because this is probably not going to occur for another like 2 or 3 sessions, depending on how long the shrines take, which I haven't gone over yet today. But I'm liking that a lot. So the idea with Mannix's eyeball revealing Zagmira, and she telling the players, once they reach a shrine that the Red Wizards have done, which I'm leaning towards it being this one up here. I believe this is Wongo, who I think had one of the weaker shrines, and it would make sense that it has already been completed. Then they get all that information about First of all, at that point, I'll need to for sure nail down which shrines have been completed, because Agmir will be able to tell them that information. It's like, we've done this one, and this one, but we know Raznici did this one, and all that information. So I'll have to know that by then, and then she'll tell them about the whole situation with the UNT and the fact that here's how to get in, and I will provide you with these potions, but I only have a couple. You know, some of you can disguise yourselves as UNT, and then the others will have to pose as prisoners, and that's how you will make it in, because the advantage is there's so many of them that you should be able to slip in. They're not exactly on a first name basis. I am not super ready for the amphitheater. No, I will probably prep that next week. I presume. Well, I might have to prep some of it just in case here, but I assume for tomorrow we're going to be doing these two shrines, which should take some time because they both involve combat. And then there's another shrine up here that the players will also do, which I believe I'm leaning towards letting that be another straight up shrine that they have to accomplish. So we've got some time, and I think I'm going to introduce. Oh, one thing I need to go over. I think I'm going to replace Bag of Nails, who is the crazy old Tabaxi hunter who is, I don't know, hunting people but turns on the players and poisons them. It's kind of weird. I'm leaning towards replacing that with a old Turtle warrior who was part of the senior ninja Turtle warriors, which George admires as his motivations and mentors and whatever. He wants to be a great warrior like they were. And I think it would be cool to find like one of them still in the field out here, because this is like their last big hunt that they want to get done, and he hasn't been able to do it, and he's old and he's wounded, and that would be just a cool like kind of penultimate step in George's quest arc, is to meet that. So I can kind of replace the Bag of Nails encounter with this old aging Turtle warrior, which would be just a fun thing for George. And I can impart the fact that this is not just a regular Tyrannosaurus. It is a powerful one with magical abilities. And yes, I will be altering the King's stat block, because as written, it's just a T-Rex with Misty Step that has to spend an action to summon swarms of bugs, which is dumb. So I will be putting him with some legendary actions and really making him a fun boss fight. And I'm leaning towards definitely teasing him throughout Omu as they go. They might hear like roars and giant footsteps and all that. So I think that could be fun. I'm also planning on using the Deinonychus in that same area. So maybe it's like a reverse Jurassic World thing where he can like even roar and dinosaurs come running to join the fight, because no matter how strong of a creature you have, it's never going to be as powerful as you want it to if you've got 5 players versus, and even more if they've got Artisan Dragonbait still with them, which I think they should, fighting one, even a legendary action boss. So I will have some other creatures in there, but I do plan on having that be its own map. I found one, which is probably the one map you've all seen if you literally search for the amphitheater map. I believe I found it on Reddit. It's this one, which is not perfect because I mean, it's a great map, but it's built into the wall with the circular part here, which is not what the actual map looks like on here. It wasn't built for this, but it is an amphitheater map. And the other option is for me to just put together a map myself, which I could do that also as the other option. It's just a circle thing with seats, and then try and create that elevation, and then have the dinosaur just, I don't even know where it would be, roaming around. I would like the players to explore it, have them be in the middle of combat with all these dinosaurs, little ones, and then have the King of Feathers appear, which would be freaking awesome. Like literally have him appear out of thin air because he's got Misty Step. So I think that would be really fun. Oh, for another session, what are the rewards for the rest of the party's personal quest completions? So I actually came up with Kalessa's finally after doing a DM's Guild review and reading about somebody else's magic item that had similar properties to it. So George's will be complete when he takes out the King of Feathers. For George, I'm probably going to replace the helm of what is there? It's a magic helmet. Is it the telepathy one or comprehend languages? Something like that. I'm going to replace that with George's personal item, So he will gain, and I'm leaning towards, he's already got 2 swords. So I'm leaning towards giving him the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bandana, colored bandana, whatever color he wants it to be, that he can wrap around his face, I guess. Because did they have it's like a mask that they wear. And I haven't nailed down the exact properties, but it'd probably have like blind sight and like see invisible and maybe like charges he has to activate or something to do with helping him fight in combat and be able to see things, because it's a like a bandana mask. But I think that would be fitting of that character, and I like continuing on this arc of him creating like this badass Leonardo type dual sword wielding turtle. So that's George's idea. Mannix's will be after they solve the artist Zendala showdown. A grateful artist will turn his vest of many pockets into a robe of many items. Is that what it's called? Where you can tear off patches and have that appear as different things, because that's very much in keeping with Mannix using a bunch of just random objects and things in battle. So I might change what items are there, because some of them are a little goofy, but that's also kind of fun. It can be goofy to throw a patch and summon a fucking dog or something, or a horse or a wagon or whatever comes out of there. So that's the idea for Mannix. And then Kalessa's, I actually have to open up another Google Doc to remind myself what hers is. That one that she will get after they deal with Zagmira and finally defeat her, which again would be after the Yuan Ti dungeon of the Fane, and they go all the way to basically the entrance of the tomb where Zagmira will be waiting, and we'll basically turn that into a big showdown with the Red Wizards. Which, let's see, where did I put that? Hers will be a weapon for sure. And load the Google Doc. It will be a sword. It will be a +1, whatever she uses, short sword, rapier, or something. And whenever she deals a killing blow, she can get temporary hit points. I haven't determined exactly how much, but probably like a 2d8 temporary hit points, which is nice because rules as written, temporary hit points do not stack. So it's not terribly game breaking, but it's kind of a nice like little shield you can put on yourself, which I think goes towards her just complete offensive powerhouse. But she can also choose to channel her own life force into the blade to deal additional damage. And again, I'm looking at how to scale this, but it's kind of similar to a divine smite, where you can choose to do from 1d8 to 3d8 or 48. As if we need Kalessa to do more damage, I know. But the cool thing there is you can you deal that much damage to yourself, and then you also deal that much damage to your opponent, which I get isn't a great trade-off, but maybe if you need to deal just a little bit more damage to take somebody out, that's always a thing that players like, oh, that didn't do it. Maybe she'd be like, all right, well, I do, 2d8 damage to myself, roll it, and then that deals it to the opponent. So that could be a kind of a cool thing. So it's the sword's name would be Blood Drinker, and the idea is it can drink blood from the opponent and from the wielder. So that is the quest reward item that will be Kalessa's culmination of her personal quest. So the cool thing is, by the time we get to the tomb, all of their personal quests will have been completed. So George's will be first, because obviously they want to go to the amphitheater. Mannix's will probably be next, as again, hopefully they do the Fane, they leave Artis behind, and then Artis, they meet Artis having to deal with Zendala, and then they'll have to deal with Zendala at that point. And that will complete Mannix's. And then when they go to the obelisk, literally at the entrance to the Tomb of the Nine Gods, they will finally deal with Zagmira and complete Kalessa's. So they will be done with their personal arcs. Then all that's left is to go to the Tomb of the Nine Gods and save the world. That's all you got to do. I can't believe we went this whole session of Crafting Annihilation without even talking about a single shrine. My goodness. So yeah, unfortunately, what's going to happen tonight or tomorrow night is stuff that I haven't even freaking talked about yet. Whoops. I just got so excited about talking about other stuff for Omen, which is all important stuff that I need to have nailed down. But tonight, we will be dealing with shrines mostly. We did talk about the searching stuff, and that's going to be a big part of it too. We'll hopefully be searching along. But we'll be dealing with the Kubazan shrine for sure. The Shigambi shrine. Wait, which one is which? Kubazan. Shigambi is here. Shigambi will be first. That's the one we literally left off here. In fact, this is where we're going to start tomorrow night session there at the entrance of... Where's that one? This one, Shigambi Shrine. They left artists outside to deal with the Commandants here. So they'll deal with this shrine, and then I assume they'll hop, skip, and a jump over to Kubazan Shrine and deal with this one. This one's a bit of a headache with the way the trap works. This will be an interesting litmus test to see how the players deal with a death trap that they can clearly see all the different moving parts to, and how much they want to engage with it versus let's just try to skip it and use all our magical powers to get past it, which, you know, is certainly an option. And then from there, I believe it's Ijin's Shrine to the north right here. I guess they'll find the adventurers camp. They'll get a little bit of a hint of the Company of the Yellow Banner. I still haven't nailed down what happened to them because it still feels weird that they find the bodies in the tomb. I don't know why. It still feels weird that the UNT would throw them into the place that they need to go. Even if they strip them of weapons, it's like, why would you either just not kill them or enslave them? Why throw them into the tomb? I don't know. That seems weird. Anyway, they'll find the adventurers camp. They'll get their final clue about the Company of the Yellow Banner. At least they made it this far. Well, I guess the idea is you want to find those items in the Tomb of the Nine Gods. You want to find the Starfall and all that. Or I could change it and have it be in the Fane of the Night Serpent too. This one, number 10, is Ijin's Shrine, which I like Ijin's Shrine. I'll probably have to come up with a way of forcing the players to actually use the floor puzzle because I think it's a really cool floor puzzle. And hopefully the players won't bypass it, or I'll come up with some way of, you know, knocking them off the walls or some kind of thing to prevent them from at least completely bypassing it. But we'll do that shrine. So that's what I'm picturing doing tomorrow night, stuff that I've only barely even talked about right now, which is these 3 shrines, the camp, and then probably search things. I will be very shocked and horribly unprepared if we actually make it all the way up to the amphitheater tomorrow night. That would be nuts. In fact, I see us basically just getting these 2 shrines done because there's combat involved in both of them, and we know combat takes a long time, so I could see that being basically all there is. So for next time, Crafting Annihilation, for sure, I will be breaking down the amphitheater, because at that point I really need to figure out if I'm making my own map, if I'm using that one map, and how exactly it's going to go down. So I think that will do it for this week's Crafting Annihilation. Thank you so much for all of you for joining me. I will be streaming tomorrow afternoon more Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, my current Let's Play game, and then, of course, tomorrow night will be our Tomb of Annihilation session. I can't wait. It's been 2 weeks. Excited to get back into it, and I'll see you all then for that.